There is something about turning 30 that hits differently. You wake up one morning and suddenly life feels heavier. You have bills, maybe a mortgage, maybe kids, maybe just a job that quietly eats your energy. You start realizing that being an adult is not just about showing up to work on time, it is about managing everything: your finances, your future, your family. And no one ever really taught you how to juggle all of it at once, because your 20s were about figuring things out. Your 30s are about facing what you figured out. The truth is, your 30s will either make you or break you financially. This is the decade that decides whether money becomes your servant or your master. And it all comes down to three key milestones, three turning points that shape your financial destiny more than any other. My name is Sari, and on this channel, I help you understand how to build real wealth without the noise, without the stress, and without losing your mind in the process. If you are ready to take control of your financial future, hit that subscribe button, because today we are breaking down the three money milestones that will define your 30s. Let's start with the most underrated one: building your safety net. In your 20s, an emergency meant borrowing from your parents or maxing out a credit card. But in your 30s, emergencies look different. It is not a flat tire anymore. It is your child getting sick. It is not missing rent anymore. It is a sudden layoff that wipes out half your income. Here's the truth: without a safety net, you are one unexpected event away from financial chaos, and that chaos keeps you stuck. You cannot invest when you are in panic mode. You cannot think long term when you're just trying to survive the month. That is why your first major milestone is building an emergency fund. At least 6 months of living expenses sitting quietly in a high yield savings account. And I do not mean the "I will build it someday" kind of fund. I mean a real, automated, untouchable system that protects you when life inevitably throws a punch. Because once you hit that number, something inside you shifts. You stop living on edge. You stop checking your bank balance every morning with a lump in your throat. You start to breathe again. Financial peace begins not when you make more, but when you need less. That is your foundation. It is not glamorous, but it is the wall that keeps everything else from collapsing when life gets hard. The second milestone separates the people who wish for wealth from those who build it. It is reaching your first $100,000 in net worth. Now, I know what you might be thinking. $100,000? That sounds impossible, but here is the thing. This milestone is not about luck. It is about systems. The people who hit it early do not necessarily earn more. They simply learn how to keep more. They automate their investments. They live slightly below their means. They understand that money is not built through massive leaps. It is built through consistent steps. And here's why this milestone matters so much. Before 100,000, you do all the work. You save, you hustle, you grind. After 100,000, your money starts working for you. That is when compound interest appears. That is when your portfolio begins to grow without you constantly feeding it. At a 7% annual growth rate, 100,000 earns 7,000 per year completely passively. That is money made while you sleep. It is the moment you realize that wealth is not built by working harder. It is built by making your money work harder. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner, said it best: the first 100,000 is hard, but you have to do it. Once you hit that mark, everything changes. It is like pushing a snowball up a hill. The first part is all effort, but once you reach the top, gravity takes over. The snowball starts rolling on its own. Your 30s are when you push that snowball. You do not need a six-figure salary to reach 100,000. You just need time, consistency, and a system that removes emotion from the process. Automate your savings. Invest in low-cost index funds. Treat every dollar like an employee whose job is to make more dollars. And once you reach that milestone, you will realize something powerful. The rich do not work harder. They just started earlier. Now let's talk about the milestone that will define your 30s more than any other: controlling your biggest expense, housing. For most people, this single decision determines whether they build wealth or stay trapped, because the average person in their 30s spends between 30 and 40% of their income on housing. That is nearly half their paycheck gone before they even buy groceries. So here's the real test. Are you using your housing to make you money, or is it using you? The people who win financially in their 30s find creative ways to flip this script. Some rent out a spare room or basement to offset their mortgage. Others move slightly outside of city centers where costs drop dramatically while lifestyle stays the same. And some simply buy less house than they can technically afford because they understand that lower expenses mean higher freedom. Let's put numbers to it. If you cut your housing costs from $2,000 a month to $1,400, that is $7,200 saved per year. Invest that over 10 years, and at 8% returns, it grows to over $100,000. That is not small change. That is the foundation of your future wealth. When you control your housing, you control your financial destiny. Because every dollar you do not spend on where you live becomes a soldier you send out to work for you. This milestone is not just about saving money, it is about freedom of choice. When your housing costs are low, you can change jobs without fear. You can take time off. You can start a business, travel, or pivot careers. Your 30s are not about impressing people with where you live. They are about designing a life you actually want to live in. Now let's zoom out for a moment. Your 30s are a strange decade. You are not broke anymore, but you are not rich yet either. You have seen what financial stress does to people, and maybe you have felt it yourself. You start realizing that wealth is not just numbers in a spreadsheet, it is emotional stability, it is control, it is the ability to make choices without fear. And these three milestones, your safety net, your first 100,000, and controlling your biggest expense are what make that control possible. Each one adds a new layer of peace to your life. Each one gives you more room to breathe, think, and plan. The emergency fund removes fear. The 100,000 milestone builds momentum. And controlling your housing gives you freedom. When you combine all three, you stop reacting to money and start directing it. But let's be real. Most people in their 30s never hit these milestones. And the reason is not a lack of intelligence. It is distraction. They chase status instead of security. They buy houses too early, cars too expensive, and clothes to impress people they do not even like. They tell themselves they will save later, not realizing that later never comes. By 40, the gap between those who hit these milestones and those who did not becomes enormous. One group is calm, confident, and free. The other is stressed, overworked, and wondering where all their money went. And the scary part? They probably earn the same income. The difference is not earnings. It is decisions. Your 30s are the decade of decisions, the ones that compound forever. If you are in your 30s and feel behind, let me give you some hope. You are not late. You are right on time. Because the best time to take control of your finances was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. You do not have to hit all three milestones this year. You just need to start. Build your emergency fund, even if it is only $500. Open your first investment account, even if it is only $100. Reevaluate your housing, even if it means moving one zip code over. Every small choice you make compounds into something bigger, because momentum does not start with perfection. It starts with motion. So, what are the three money milestones that make or break your 30s? Build your safety net. Create a 6-month emergency fund that gives you peace of mind. Reach your first $100,000 in net worth. Let compound interest become your ally, not just a concept. Control your biggest expense. Master housing, and you master freedom. Together, these milestones are not just financial goals, they are emotional ones. They transform your 30s from a decade of anxiety into a decade of confidence. Because when you hit them, something incredible happens. You stop living paycheck to paycheck. You stop chasing security, and you start building legacy. Your 30s can make or break your financial future not because of luck, but because of the choices you make right now. Each of these milestones is a checkpoint on the road to freedom. You do not have to sprint, you just have to keep walking. Because wealth is not built in giant leaps, it is built in quiet, consistent steps. So if this helped you see your 30s differently, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. And remember, you do not need to have it all figured out. You just need to reach the next milestone.